Welcome back to the third part of NMRAX. Today, we actually have my good friend Richard Frazier, and I am filling in, and I said his name, I'm not supposed to, but since I'm filling in, I get to say it more than once. Um, I'm filling in as host for Speed, and obviously I'm not in a Helix either. But I'm excited for this presentation. I think you're going to love it, and I'm going to go ahead and read the intro. So our next speaker is a longtime model railroader, starting out like most of us with the Lionel sat under the Christmas tree, switching to HO scale while in high school, and then settling into N scale in adulthood. Over the next 4 decades, he participated with several clubs and organizations in Oklahoma, Texas, and now in Colorado. He has presented across the country on a variety of model railroading topics, including the future of model railroading and how model trains are made. Some of you may recognize him from having previously worked at Intermountain Railway Company and attending shows across the country. Currently, he's a member of the Boulder Model Railroad Club. He volunteers at the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, where I'm from, and he's on the board of the Northern Colorado Model Railroad Club. And in his spare time, he operates the online model train store, yardselltrains.com. Please welcome my friend, Richard Frazier.
Hey, thank you, Michelle. It's good to be here. Before I just dive into the things that I'm going to cover, I always like to ask a few questions of the audience and find out what we all have in common, right? And I think that we all think N scale is the best scale ever. Is that right? Maybe not. We think Santa Fe is the best railroad ever to exist, right? Maybe not. Uh, Many of us think that ready to run is evil, right? So, but no, actually, the only thing that we have in common is we are all getting older. Okay. So, what happens to your model trains and layout when you are gone? So, who am I? As you heard, I used to work at Intermountain. I was in charge of marketing and customer service. Currently, I am also a state and donation coordinator for the Northern Colorado Model Railroad Club, so I deal with a lot of estates. And then I have my own, there's my shameless plug for yardselltrains.com. And yes, I am an N scale guy. So the things that we're going to cover today, it's harsh realities, right? I'm not going to hold any punches back. Some of this is going to be kind of direct. Also, how do we plan for what's going to come, right? And what's the impact if we don't plan, right? So, and then, if you don't plan for things, it's not going to go the way you think. And even if you do plan, it's not going to go the way you think. So get over it, right? So, but what should be the desired outcome? Now, the first thing I want to talk about is model train layouts. Now, anybody ever tried to sell a model train layout? It's actually kind of hard, right? And really, I thought about this for a long time, and I had to come to the conclusion that I had to understand, well, what is a model train layout, right? And if you put 50 modelers in a room, you'll get 50 different answers, okay? But the really reality is a model train layout is somebody's dream. And I don't care if it's a 2 foot by 2 foot little module that sits in the corner or a 5,500 square foot museum. It's somebody's dream. The problem with that, it's not your dream. So it's not your space or your scale or your railroad or your location. Okay? So everybody has their own vision and dream of what their model railroad is going to look like. When it comes to selling it, the things that come into play is space. Right? Few people have the instant space to take on a full-size layout. I don't know anybody that's got a spare bedroom that they're waiting for the right layout to come on sale so they can put it in there. So it's we just don't have the space for those or to take one. It's the wrong era or the wrong railroad. Does it even match my desires? If I like modeling the Rock Island, I'm probably not interested in Santa Fe in Arizona. Right? Logistics. Can it even be moved with what I call intensity? A good friend of mine, he has an N-scale layout. He's not well. I have an empty basement, so maybe I can move his layout. But the effort it would take to cut it up, take it around the corner, up the stairs, load it in the truck, get it to my place, down the stairs, around the corner, it just becomes too much. and isn't worth it, right? And it wouldn't be worth it to me when it was all said and done. So the harsh reality, there's a high probability that the layout will be disassembled and trashed. So how do you do that? How do you take apart a layout? Did you even plan for this when you built it? Can you even plan for it? The answer is yes, you can plan for this. So start now. So here's a homework assignment for you. Uh, Go sit in your layout room. Don't run any trains, but just look at your layout. You built it, you were there. So what does it take to take it apart? Did you plan to have it disassembled? Or is it going to have to be sliced and diced, right? You know, if it's going to be disassembled, does anybody but you know how to do this? We were taking apart a layout. We were about a third of the way through, and we started noticing some interesting connectors, and we figured out that the layout could have been disassembled, but we didn't know that. So find out, if you have that, we need to understand and know that so that the people that are going to be dealing with this are ready. And if it's going to have to be sliced and diced, where's the best place to cut, right? That would be good for us to know because the number one tool used for taking apart a layout is a Sawzall. This is the 15 amp model, by the way. It'll cut through anything. Right? So build a plan and create a notebook. And I'm going to talk about this notebook a lot. And you want to leave this notebook where it can be found, right? Don't put it on the shelf with the books. We'll never see it. Don't put it in the safe. We won't remember it's there, right? Put it by the layout. I suggest always getting one of those little mail file folders that you can get at the office supply house, mount it to the wall, put the notebook there. And it'll be a great access point for when those folks are having to deal with your layout, they'll be able to find it and deal with your layout appropriately. Also, find out who gets what. All right. If you've got a fully developed layout and you've got operators and operating sessions going on regularly, ask, it's kind of a weird conversation, I'll admit, but ask people what they would like to have if you were gone. Right? And be ready to be surprised. Right? You may have an operator who always likes to work at the coal mine. And so you're thinking, oh, they'll want something from the coal mine. Instead, they'll say, no, I want something from the milk creamery that you have over there. That would look great, and I'd love to have that. So if you like them well enough, put it in the book. Put it in a notebook that that person gets that particular item off of your layout. Also, how do you remove all the electronics? And where are they? And what are they? Okay. Electronics are becoming more and more. So where are those at? And this also, stripping the layout, taking the things off, buildings, scenery, especially trees, right? No model railroader ever said they had enough trees, right? So trees are always popular. The track, how's the track attached? I know that there's 100 different religions when it comes to attaching track to layouts, and sometimes it's very easy to get it up, and sometimes it's put down with liquid nails and it'll never be removed, right? So let us know how things are on there so we can get them off. So when it comes to disassembling a layout, if the people that are left behind that are going to be dealing with this, and many, many times it's a spouse, right? If they're not prepared for this, it's going to be very traumatic for them. And it's important enough, I'm going to say that again, right? If they're not prepared, it will be overly traumatic for them. So make sure they're prepared for what's going to happen, okay? And know how it's going to be done for your layout. Let us know. Put that in the book. And no, we're not going to take out the 1,100 screws that are holding together. Okay? We're going to roll in there. It's going to be fast, it's going to be loud, and it's going to be dramatic. And I can assure you that no room looks sadder and more barren and more empty and more abandoned than a room that was filled with a model train layout the day before. So make sure they know how it's going to come apart. It's important, and Like I said, it is very traumatic for them. This is something that they know you loved, that you participated in, that you had friends over, that you dealt with on a regular basis, if not daily, okay? Then they need to know how it's going to come apart and what that experience is going to be like. So, what about all the other stuff besides the layouts? Okay. Do you have an inventory of it? Right? No one does. Don't worry about it. If you think you do and you go to a train show and you buy 10 things, well, guess what? Your inventory is out of date, right? But we can take what you have and break it down into basic categories. Basic category: engines, rolling stock, structures and scenery, the electronics, books and memorabilia, and photographs and videos. So starting out with engines, the engines are probably the most valuable item that you have, right? You spend the most money for these. The technology in these has come a long way, so we have sound and DCC controlled. But also, when you're doing this, we have to consider: is it brass? Is it custom? Is it unique? Is it what age is it? Is there an emotional connection with this as well? Right? We have to understand those. And also, where are the boxes? Okay, put all the boxes in a labeled box that we can find. Right? They dealt with an estate. There were no boxes. 3 months go later, they're actually finally moving out of the house. Oh, hey, we found the boxes. They were upstairs under the stairs, right? So it doesn't do any good at that point. So where are the boxes? And also put a piece of paper in there to tell us about the item, right? If it's DCC, who's the manufacturer of the decoder? Does it have sound? All those things are very helpful when we're trying to deal with what's there. And do you want some of these to go to very specific people and or organizations? So put that in the notebook as well. Right? If you have someone that you're friends with, or a modeler or operator, and they want something, put it in the book so it's no question about it. So rolling stock, probably the largest and least valuable of the items you have. All right, you'll have a lot of them most likely, and they're going to range in price that you've paid over the years and stuff. But also, same thing. We want to consider the sound, custom, unique, age, emotional, impact of some of these cars. Was this your very first car when you were a kid, right? Was it dad's car, right? So keep that in mind. Also, where are the boxes? Okay. And also, put that piece of paper in there and tell us there's something unique. Imagine my surprise when I put that stock car on the track and it mooed at me. Okay. So let us know if it's a sound car. The mechanical reefers now have sound, so let us know that when we're putting it away. Also, do some of these go to specific people or organizations? I'd work in a state now. One of the members used to work at the same place that the person that passed, and they want the cars from Eastman Kodak, right? So find out if there's specific people that they would go to. Now, structures and scenery is probably the most awkward and hardest to deal with. They're very fragile. They're light. Non-trained folks don't know how to deal with them well, so they can get broken easily and stuff. So those are tricky to work with. But if you've got a fully developed layout, many of your operators would love to have an item or two from your layout to add to their own, right? So ask that question. Anything on here you'd like to have, who would get it, right? And you can charge them, right? You don't have to give it to them, right? You can charge them. So you just got to let us know how much, right? Also, removing things from your layout can be tedious. So put in your notebook how things are attached, right? So if you've glued everything down, how did you glue it down, right? So let us know so that we can be prepared to get it off if that's possible, right? Also, we all have used scenery elements: ground cover, flock, glue, ballast, etc. That needs to be donated. Pick someone you like that can take advantage of it and go from there and stuff. So, okay. Electronics. Now, this can be large money real fast. Okay. DCC systems are not cheap. Half price for complete systems can still be hundreds of dollars. All right. So where are they at, right? tell us, what other stuff you have out there, right? There's a lot of add-ons that we see today that we didn't used to see, from signals and Arduinos and Raspberries, short circuits, tortoise. All these things have value and stuff. And let us know where they're at, okay? Because if we don't know where they're at, I can assure you that a Sawzall can slice a booster in half with very little effort. So let us know. Another thing is if you've ran electricity through your layout, it's good for us to know that too. Layout rooms are really dark when you pop the breaker after cutting the wire. Okay, so let us know where that stuff is at. So books and memorabilia. Okay, how many of us have books, right? All of us, right? So magazines are a hard sell. Thank the internet, right? Very few people have a desire to obtain more magazines. Most are wanting to get rid of them. Find organizations that will use these for the kids to give them something. At the museum, when kids show up, there's a box of magazines, and to get out, we make sure they have to take a magazine with them, right? So find places that have kids that they'll enjoy them and stuff. So, okay. Books can be a hard sell, except in rare cases. You're not gonna get what you paid for it, right? Not even close. The books just don't have a value that retains like you would see in some of your model train items and stuff like that. But also create a list and note those that are signed or special, right? So if you got a signed copy of something, that'll carry a little value or a little significance and stuff. So make sure that you capture that if you can and stuff. Now, for those of you that have extensive collections, I don't have any connection with this organization, but I use them. It's called Library Thing. It's web-based. They've got an app for your phone, which I use. It helps me not buy the same book twice. Okay, so one of the advantages of working for Intermountain was I went to an awful lot of shows, and I kid you not, I went over, oh, this is a great book. I should get this, and I did. And 6 months later, I'm at another show, and I found the book again, and I thought it was a great book, so I bought it again. So I have 3 copies now. So I started using this to help me prevent that activity and stuff. All right. And railroad stuff. All right. This is all that things that we've all collected, from lanterns and plates and signs and artwork and spikes and rails and the list goes on and on. This is not anywhere near a complete list. And we all have all that. And this stuff is brutal to establish any kind of value. Okay. Some of it may be even one of a kind. Okay. Now, one of a kind may mean you were the one that wanted it. Okay. That's fair. But also, it could mean that so many other people want it, it would sell for stupid amounts. Okay. So be sure and note those in the notebook as to what you have and stuff. But if you don't have enough books, right, a fun website that you can check out is Zollibris. It's like an umbrella website that connects hundreds of independent booksellers. So you can go out there and find any number of books from any number of places and stuff. So check it out if you need more books. So. Now, photographs and videos, this is tricky, right? Because you may have a picture of 4014 crossing Sherman Hill in 1940s, right? Or is it 4014 excursion train in 2019, right? So if we don't know what you have, it becomes a bit tricky. I took this picture from railpictures.net. Ryan was the photographer for this. So we need to know what you have, all right? And this is part of the curse of the digital world, all right? What do you have? Is it all yours? Is it others? Is it both? So that's part of the challenge. How do you have it? Is it slides, negatives? Is it digital? Is it CD? Is it VHS? Is there some media that you have? So where is it at, right? And who can get to it and how can they get to it? It does no good to have it on your laptop if you've got a password on it that no one knows. Okay, so figure out who's going to be able to get to this and access it. And does it have value? And the short answer is yes, it kind of does, especially in some interesting cases. And I brought this one up because I thought this was just kind of fun. A few years back, BNSF did heritage cars out of their hoppers, right? And they took several of the logos from past predecessor railroads, put them on their cars. They did a GN heritage car, BNSF 489367. From what I understand, that car was wrecked for 3 or 4 days after it was put out on the railroad. Okay? There's no known photograph of this car. Right? At least none that we know of. Right? Somebody probably has a picture of it because it was a neat car, right? It had a different logo on it. Somebody would have seen that and went, "Oh, that's cool," and taken the picture of it. They don't realize that they may have the only existing photo of that. Now it lays on the side of the ditch up in Wyoming. It's been there for I think like 9 or 10 years now. So we can still go get a picture of it, but it doesn't look to be in the best of shape right now. So when it comes to that, document it somehow. I'm not even going to begin to tell how to do this. There are just so many different ways that some people find it easier to do it one way versus another. So you'll have to find the way that works for you. My wife does genealogy. She runs across the same issue where they have all these family photos. How do you organize them? And everybody's got an opinion, so you got to figure out the one that works for you, but get it documented somehow, all right? And make sure others know about it, know how it is. Also, do you have any last day photographs or videos, right? And what I mean by last day is, the last days of KCS before they were taken over, Rock Island, Santa Fe, all of these. If you have any of those are the ones that people will have a lot of interest in and will be interested in acquiring or obtaining copies of. Okay? And start now. We have a lot of pictures. A friend of mine recently passed a year or so ago. He has over a 500,000, yes, 500,000 pictures of Santa Fe, right? That he had taken and acquired over the years and stuff. So there's an awful lot of photos that you may have that you need to get documented and stuff. What we want to know is the where. Where was the picture taken? When was it taken? Any details that you can provide about it would be worthwhile and stuff. Okay. Now, if you don't plan, it's going to increase everything you didn't expect, right? So you want to make sure you do plan for the inevitable of how you're going to handle this. If you don't plan, the kids may rent a dumpster. And yes, it is true, brass locomotives have been thrown away, right? So make a plan so that they can follow it. The people that are going to have to deal with this are going through a large emotional toll, especially if it's a spouse, right? And they're going to try to guess what you would have wanted. So don't make them guess at a time when they're not really emotionally ready for that. Okay? And without any kind of guidance, they will make mistakes. And there's story after story of folks who didn't even know what they had. They just wanted to get rid of it, and they made serious mistakes in trying to get rid of it and stuff. So also, be realistic, okay? We all love our stuff, right? We have great appreciation for what we've done. Our friends have appreciation for what we've done, but be realistic with it. Don't tell your family, "Oh, I've got $10,000 invested in the layout." That may be a true statement, right? But don't stop with that, right? Go ahead and tell them that, and you're probably not going to get more than $50 for the whole thing, right? If that, right? Let them know and understand, because if they hear you got $10,000 in it, they're going to feel like they failed if they don't get it that or get some money out of selling it, which they may not, right? So I strongly encourage you to plan. Create that notebook that folks can find. Okay. The structure of your notebook doesn't really matter, right? I prefer English, but I know this is an international group, so that's probably a little arrogant. So, put it in a structure of the language. If it's a French or Italian or Canadian or Australian or Texan, whatever, right? Put it in a language that folks can understand. There's no right or wrong way, right? There's no template that you should follow. It's just got to be understandable, right? So make sure that the folks that are going to have to deal with it can understand what's there. If your writing's really bad, maybe type it, okay? So document about the layout, who gets what, how's it come apart, Where's stuff located in there when we start? We don't tear anything up, right? Document about the items, right? Boxes, who gets what, what are the special notes we need, and decide on who's going to take on the effort, right? If you can, right? If it's going to be your spouse, that's one thing. Is the kids, or is it going to be somebody else that you trust, a family friend or somebody like that? They don't necessarily have to be a trained person, right? You just got to give them the guidance to go to the right people to help, right? And don't be nebulous. I know this is probably the feeling of many people, but it's let the kids have what they want, and after that I don't care. Well, the problem is the people that are dealing with this, they do care that you cared about it when you were alive. So don't leave them with a nebulous feeling of, well, I don't really know, right? What he would have wanted, right? So if they can't figure out what you would have wanted, well, they're going to struggle. So give them a more clear picture of what you think should happen, right? And then they'll have a plan and they can work through that a lot easier. And the notebook is what makes it work, right? That notebook makes it so much easier for anybody that's going to have to deal with it, right? And so make sure you take the effort to create that going forward. Okay? So now I'm going to kind of change directions a little bit. We'll throw a note in there if you do have any questions. Post your questions, and we'll get to those here at the end and stuff. So we'll get those taken care of for you. But now talk about how if we get to a point where we need to dispose of stuff, what are some of the ways that we can do that? So I've been asked that a lot, so I thought I'd just put together a little bit of kind of the how do I get rid of things, right? What are some of the options? You know, do you not care? Just be donated. Well, how would you want it to be donated to who and how and stuff? Do you want someone to receive benefit from your investment? Right? You got money in this, right? This stuff ain't free, right? That's for sure, right? So what are the paths to get rid of these things that you have the best way? And who do you or they call? All right, so is it Ghostbusters? I don't know, right? But so some of the past, so start out with different ones, and this one is you've all heard of eBay, or most of us have. It's global. This will have the pros. I'm gonna show pros and cons, right? So the pros for eBay, it's got the largest audience, right? It's a global audience. You most times are gonna obtain the highest gross price, right? Because you have a large audience and stuff. There are a lot of tools for doing marketing and promoting items available on eBay. It's a very mature platform. It's been around for almost 3 decades now. And you can do auction style, or you can even do buy it now, just set a price and sell it and stuff. Some of the cons, it has the highest cost to sell items, right? So you're paying a premium for the other features. It also takes a lot of effort, right? They have very strict rules about how things are presented on the site, and pictures and packing and shipping and descriptions and stuff. So there's a fair amount of work that goes into setting one of these up. You kind of have to decide if this is the path you want to go. You also will get to deal with a lot of strange people, right? So I've had a huge experience with different odd folks, to put it politely. I was selling, wasn't a train thing, but I was selling a 9-drawer triple dresser. That was the description, 9-drawer triple dresser. And the question I received from a potential buyer was, how many drawers does it have? So I just didn't even know how to answer that question, right? So, and stuff. So you're going to get some odd folks along the way. Another platform, global presence, is Facebook, Facebook Marketplace. You have access to a larger audience if you ship, and smaller if you don't, right? So if you don't want to ship, you can do it this way. You set the price and list the item. You can list an item really fast with a smartphone, and it can happen really quickly. I listed something at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They were there at 5 o'clock to pick it up because I didn't get off work at 4 when they wanted to be there. So, it can go very quickly. It's cheap to do, right? It doesn't cost anything if it's sold locally, and it's only 5% if it's shipped. So it has that feature to it. You may not obtain the best price, right? You're just setting a price, and it may or may not be the best price that you could have gotten, but it is what it is. Also, expect folks that are going to want to haggle. They're not really being rude. It's just the way the platform's designed. So it's kind of like those garage sales, when you go in and there's a genuine Rembrandt there, and if it was $100, somebody's going to offer you 80, right? So it's just the way they work. So be prepared for that. And you may not be comfortable having people come to your house, right? So you can set a meeting place. There are different places around town that even Facebook will recommend you go to meet, to exchange items and stuff. Also, watch for scammers. Facebook has done an awful lot of work to try to help prevent this, but evil people are evil and they're good at it. So be on the lookout for that as you go through that process. Now, this one's very US centric, and it's not the only platform. It's just one I just given as an example. It's called Auction Ninja. This is for handling estate sales, right? So you can do things the same way. You have access to a larger audience if you ship, because you can do it nationally. Smaller if you don't, but it's not as niche. It's not, they're not categories directly related to model trains. But gosh, it's easy to do, right? Just get a good picture and a short description. And when I mean short description, you can say HO locomotive, and that can be the end of your description, right? So it runs like an auction, but it extends with each bid as you get closer. So eBay is notorious for that last second bidding because the auction ends at a very specific time. Uh, in the Auction Ninja world, if you bid in the last 2 minutes, it automatically extends at 5, right? So you can see auctions that will extend, for an hour or two if there are a few people who want it and stuff. You do about 100 to 400 lots at once, and there can be no shipping, and everyone will come to you and pick it up. Okay. Once again, you may not obtain the best price because you're not focused just on model railroad folks, but gets it gone. It costs us more than Facebook, it's less than eBay. And on pickup day, you're going to need help because the way you set it up is you say, okay, pickup is going to be Sunday afternoon between 1 and 4. Well, at 12:30, there's going to be a line of 50 people outside waiting for you to open, and you're going to need help giving them all the stuff that they've bought and paid for and stuff. So just be prepared for that if you go this path and stuff. Now, this can be done, as an individual or through an estate sales agent. We see this a lot if the overall estate is also being liquidated along with the model trains, right? Sometimes it's all things have to go because they were the last person there. So kids don't want the house, or there's no kids, or whatever. Then everything has to go and stuff. So you have a garage sale. So this is a one-time event. It's exposed to the right customer because the only people that show up to the model train garage sale are model train folks, and occasionally the person that's walking down the street wondering what's going on, right? If it's priced right, a lot of it's going to move very quickly. It also gets things to the local folks that may have known the modeler, right? So that makes it kind of special for everybody involved because it goes to folks that they would have known, and they'll appreciate it more and stuff. You advertise this to your local clubs and entities. We actually have a garage sale going on actually next Saturday. And I've advertised to all the clubs up and down the Front Range, which basically goes from Cheyenne, Wyoming, all the way down to Pueblo and stuff. So we'll have a lot of people at it. It is a bit of work. Okay, so no kidding there. We have to get things inventoried, get the flyers sent out. We have to establish pricing. Right, that's tricky because there's so many items. The one we're doing has 1,500 items that we have to price. Right. Also, it works better if you can figure out how to take credit cards. So figure that out in preparation for that. Okay. You can sell at a train show, right? So it's a one-time event, and you got the right customer there. If it's priced right, a lot of it will go quickly. So depending on what your objective is, you can sell it there. Uh, this is a lot of work, right? I did lots of shows with Intermountain, and for us it was easy. We just brought out our trinkets, showed it. When we were done, we scooped them up, threw them in our suitcase, and left. But those folks that were selling, it's a lot of work to set up, and you're not going to sell it all, so you're going to have to take some of it home. And also, many of the municipalities where the shows are, you got to collect taxes, so you got to be prepared for that. Also, I didn't mention this earlier. It's a lot of work, right? So be prepared if that's the path you want to go. You can sell it to a broker, dealer, reseller, which is kind of what I am. As a yard sale trains, that's kind of my gig. But it's one shot and it's done, right? I mean, some will pick it up. You don't even have to ship it. It's easy and it can be least traumatic, right? So if folks have stuff they just want to get rid of, this is a kind of a quick and easy way to do it. Some of the dealers get picky about what they will accept, right? So you may still be stuck with 25 years of magazines that you got to deal with, right? It also will be the lowest price you receive. Okay. One of the estates I worked with, there was O scale, G scale collector stuff. The broker offered us $9,000. Right. We sold it on eBay for 45,000. Right. So there's a big difference, but it's quick and easy. So keep that in mind. And you can donate it, right? You call them, you pack it, deliver it, pick up, done. There may be tax benefits to you, right? Depending on how you valued it and how it's been valued and tracked, then there could be benefits from you from that. And some of the organizations that do that will assist, right? The cons of it, don't ask what they will do with it because you may not like the answer, right? I have seen the trash can full of model trains because it wasn't worth it to them, the time, the effort, all of that. So this is the ultimate, just let it all go, right? So it can happen. And then there's some odd things that you run across, G scale, right? Outdoor layouts, right? So removing an outdoor layout, that's kind of a different animal. They can be sold, but usually the house goes with it, right? So you can get a, 1 acre G scale layout with 2,400 feet of track, 5 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage. So you may have to see how you want to handle that one. The other items just generally process the same way as anything else, right? O scale has some complexities. If it's not pre-war collector items, then it processes pretty much the way everything else does. If it's pre-war collector items, there are complexities there you've never even heard of. Well, at least I haven't, right? I was selling a collection, and the question came in: is this the one that was made in New Jersey or Pennsylvania? Right? It's a Lionel engine of some sort, and I was like, I don't know. How you tell? And well, if you move the front truck, there's an N printed there, or there's a P. And if it's an N, it was New Jersey. It was P, it was Pennsylvania. And the Pennsylvania one's worth more. Really? Okay. And sure enough, we had the P. We noted that, and it sold for a lot. So there's some odd things that you have to be ready for. Also, that's the one where there's danger in emotional attachments. So be prepared for that. Was it yours, theirs, other, who had it? Was it dad's? Was granddad's? Those kinds of things. So watch for some of those emotional attachments. Many times, I tell folks that, especially the spouses, they may not be emotionally ready for what's going on. And if they show an attachment to something, I just pull it to one side and say, well, when you're ready, let me know, right? And then move on. So. Tin plate and standard gauge. I'll be honest. I've been in model trains for decades. I had never heard of standard gauge until about 5 years ago when I got this one collection involved with it, and that is a very very niche interest and audience. And stuff, and it is also very pricey stuff. So I was surprised by that. So there are things that you can run across in the model train states, the world, that are a little more trickier to deal with than what we more commonly see and stuff. And then finally, guide them to a club. Now, like I said earlier, I'm the state coordinator in my club, and we provide these services to past members. Right, that's our objective there. So, we kind of know who's up next, kind of thing. But we provide that, and the main thing is I just work with them and figure out what they want to do. Right. The one that we're working on right now, the objective was we want to get it to those people that he may have known that were part of the club or in this area and stuff. So that's the approach we've taken and stuff. So you just got to understand what their objective is. I get other members I volunteer them or told them to assist. And main thing, first thing out of the gate is inventory, right? So, we had 10 people come over on a Saturday, and we inventoried 1,500 items, turned it in kind of a pizza party. So it's kind of fun in one sense, right? So, and then once we get through that, then we go through and we start pricing things, establish values and stuff, and then we figure out the best way to sell it, right? And in this case, we're leading out with a garage sale, and then probably we'll have a broker lined up after that the garage sale is complete. So the things that we don't do is we can't sell. Our club is a nonprofit, so that impacts us. There's different types of nonprofits, but our club is set up in a way that we can't sell things to the public. So, we were not able to do that, but we help coordinate and make the other sales events happen and stuff. So, okay. So thank you for your time. Now open it up for questions at this point. So I think Michelle, I think you're handling the questions today.
Yes, I am. We have a few. Um, the first one that I'm going to ask you is, how do you recommend that people value older rolling stock and buildings and electronics?
Yeah. So valuing things can be tricky because in some cases manufacturers are gone, or especially on the electronic side, or the item is discontinued, no longer available. So some of those can be more tricky. Uh, the single biggest way or easiest way to value something is through eBay, right? You can go out to eBay and just do a search for that item. They have the ability to narrow your search to completed auctions, right? And so you'll see what it actually is selling at. Somebody lists a Tyco train for $1,000. There's something off, right? So
Right.
that's
You
not a
should
good.
look for like two or three of the item and kind of take the
Exactly.
middle price. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then depending on how you're wanting to sell it will depend on what your price is going to be. If you're going to sell it on eBay and you want it to sell, you come in at a couple of dollars below that. If you want it to go to the local folks in a garage sale, you're going to go 25-30% below that and stuff to put it out. There are some specialty sites in the world of N scale and a little bit HO scale. There's a website called TroveStar, and they have all the in scale items ever produced and what they originally sold and what they recently sold for. So that can sometimes be helpful, but I do realize that not everybody is into in scale like I am. So
I like N scale too. I think what's important is if they're going to value this in their notebook, they should put the date that they
yes,
value it on so they know that, oh, this is 2-year old data. So I
right,
do need to research it again.
yeah. And also, if you're going to use this for tax considerations, put the price you paid for it, right? And stuff. Very few model trains are bought for the retail price, right? So you got to kind of be realistic. Don't try to snooker an extra 20%, right? So what did you pay for it? And note that if you have an ongoing inventory that you're trying to maintain.
Okay, next question is, what is the most efficient way of disposing of the collection in a speedy manner? What's the fastest way?
A broker, a
I think so
broker.
too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
Yeah, all you
Just
have to
dealing,
do is just get a list. You don't even have to price it. You just get a list of the items and you hand that to a broker. They're going to look at that. They're even if you gave them a price, they're not going to pay attention to it. They're going to be focused on what do you have and what does my business demonstrate a desire, right? So some of those brokers that are in the Midwest, they love UP, they love Santa Fe, right? Those
right.
that are in the east, they're going to be Pennsylvania, Atlantic coast, so they're going to look at those kinds of characteristics of what you have, but the broker will be the fastest to do.
Yeah. And I found, so at the museum, we get calls all the time. We'd like to sell this layout that we have. And I like sending them to a broker because I know it's someone that I've worked with before and they have credibility. And I think the family appreciates that brokers are like, it's a business. So you're going to have that credibility with it too. So I
Absolutely.
found that that's a good way to do
Yeah.
that.
The one thing the broker can share, and I think it makes people feel a little bit better, is that whoever buys it ultimately wanted it. Okay, so it's going to go to somebody who will appreciate it in the end, right? Because the broker's not buying it just to have; they're buying it to sell it. So
So this one's a question that I wrote so that we could discuss it.
Okay.
Should you let the people and organizations that you have in mind know that you've written them down in your book? And I
I
think yes.
think you should. I think you should so that they are prepared, right?
Yes.
Um, unlike other charitable organizations where receiving a cash donation anonymously, works, right? But we're not talking about cash. We're talking about physical things here, and some of these physical things may not be practical for the entity that you're wanting to help out, receive or deal with, right? So, and there are many different organizations related to model trains that can benefit, right? So
Right.
you take like the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, right? There are things that you'd be very grateful to have, and there are things that you would struggle with receiving. But then
Right.
there's youth in model railroading. They could take different things that you would not be interested in, but would benefit them and stuff.
And
That
another
I
one is that we as a museum often know of a museum that would benefit more than to us. We
absolutely,
were offered this huge brass Santa Fe collection, and I thought, well, we don't display Santa Fe, so we had to find someone it
mhm,
fits better with, right?
exactly,
So if you
exactly.
let us know ahead of time, we can make that happen in a better way. And some places, like our museum, we have a legacy society, so there's actually something kind of fun with if you let them know. But even letting your friends know it's coming, the same reasons they can prepare and
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
Um, okay, so um, the NMRA actually has an article on their website, and so I wanted to mention that if you go to nmra.org and you look up estate planning, there's actually another related article that's just another piece that's out there for people. Um, Richard, you've been a wealth of information. You and I have been working together on this
Hmm.
future project. Another question I have is there a pre-made form I can get? Well, that's what you and I are working on right now.
Yeah, and I think that any form that we make, right, and I know the form you and I will make will be just fabulous, right? But the reality is, not every form will work for everybody, right?
Correct.
Their brain don't think that way, right? And so I think it's the form is not as important as having that book, right, and putting the information in there. Now, I think if we had a template that'll help many people, right? Kind of, okay, I should have that information in there. These are the
Mhm.
elements that I need. Who made it, when did I get it, does it have sound, those kinds of things, who's going to get it, those things I think are positive. But I don't want folks to get hung up on having the right format as much as put it in the book, put it in the notebook, right? So
Yep, put it in the book. And I personally am the person who receives the phone call from the distressed family who's crushed
mhm.
and wants to do the best thing they can with Grandpa's railroad.
Uh,
And if Grandpa had just done these things, it would have alleviated so much trauma and stress for this
yes,
family. And so,
absolutely.
cannot stress enough what you've said in this, how
Yeah.
important this is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. This is not about us as the modeler. We're done. We're dead. We're gone. Right. This is who you're leaving behind. This is what you're doing for them. And I've had many of, spouses that I started talking to and figured out they were in no shape to even begin the conversation. Right. And I
right.
said, you know what? Let me call you back in 6 months when you're ready. Right. And more often than not, they'll call me beforehand, but they appreciate that okay, we don't have to do this now, but they just didn't have a plan. They didn't know what to do. And
So they
that's the
have to
most
take the
important.
time to process and think it all out
Yeah. And they're
and
dealing with other things. I mean, we think model
yeah.
trains is the universe, right? But they're dealing with things like they may have to move, they may have to sell everything, they got kids they got to deal with, and they're getting 100 different things going on at once. Model trains is not the most important thing at that particular moment. So you have to give them time.
Yeah.
So,
And another thing we should just talk about real quick is that if people have a very, very large collection and they think they're just going to donate it on, there are tax implications for your family. So please talk to somebody, talk to me or Richard. You can call us
hmm.
because there are appraisals that have to happen for things. If your
Right.
family's going to get a good tax credit, there are things that have to happen. The IRS has a process. And so ask those questions. We're happy to answer those questions.
Yep. Yeah, and that's probably the same in every country, not just the U.S., right?
Yes.
So, for those that are international, check with your estate planning folks on how that gets handled appropriately.
Okay, we have one last question that just came in.
Okay.
Are there tools available for cataloging a collection?
There have been in the past, but they've not held up. And in the sense that the company no longer is updating it and things like that. Now, the website that I referenced earlier, TroveStar, you do have the ability to create your own collection and put it out there and stuff. So there is an online version of it. My single biggest concern about that is what happens if one day TroveStar stops, right? And if you don't have that information and stuff. So I've not heard of any true inventory planning, cataloging type of system that's available. Might be a little niche and stuff. Quite
Well,
honestly,
I
Excel
can say,
spreadsheet does plenty good.
I was going to say, there's cataloging software, but it's expensive, and you're probably not going to want to go to the expense of true cataloging software.
Right.
But an Excel spreadsheet goes a long ways. I agree. I think that's the answer.
The thing about the Excel spreadsheet is that whoever gets it, they can manipulate it easily, right?
Yeah, and you can even go to a Google spreadsheet, right? Like you can use
Yes,
a free software.
you can use a
So,
free one. Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
Google Sheets is called. Yeah. But just make sure that somebody knows how to get to it. That once again is dependent on user IDs and passwords. So make sure that somebody else besides you can access it and stuff. So,
right. And that should be part of your bigger estate plan, right? I
yeah,
mean, that should be part of everybody's bigger estate plan. So, Richard, thank you for talking to us about this today.
you bet. You
This
bet.
is really important. I can't stress it enough for those watching. This is really important. So, thank you for being with us today. Just want
Thanks
to
for having me.
remind everybody that next month's NMRAX will be on November 23rd at 5 p.m. Eastern. And thank you for watching with us today.
Thank you all.